Welcome, SENS Talk.
Here comes Panthers and a pass across to the stars. He bats it in. Tim Stutzler wins it for Ottawa. Triple Grant is going to put the finishing touches on an Ottawa win. See you later. Go SENS go.
Welcome to SENS Talk. My name is Brandon Plant, and I am your host. Tonight, the Ottawa Senators took on the Florida Panthers to finish off the Florida swing, and they come out defeated yet again. Just like the last two games in Tampa, Ottawa loses yet again in Florida, this time to the Panthers. They go 0-3 in Florida, 1-4 on the road trip as they fall to the Panthers tonight by a score of 5-1. You're probably expecting a little angry SENS Talk, a little bit of a fired up Brandon. I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be very critical, and I'm going to be very honest and blunt, but also I think the last three games should not erase the fact that the Ottawa Senators are frankly in a position that we didn't really expect them to be in going into, this break. I mean, if you would have told me, back into, September or October that the Ottawa Senators were firmly first in the wild card spot come the Four Nations break, I would have been ecstatic. So let's not act like we shouldn't be happy about that. I was, before the season, expecting them to be in the playoff race, yeah, but around the bubble, kind of like Detroit right now, or kind of like Columbus. So the fact that Ottawa, for stretches as of late, have been in divisional spots, they are within striking distance of second in the division and, of course, third. There's still a lot to be optimistic about with this team. However, the last three games have been brutal, and, the two don't wipe out one another. The team can still be in a good spot, and we should be positive about that. But the team also, there's injuries, but it doesn't really matter because the effort wasn't there really consistently. Did not play as well as they could have, and they should have, especially with the way they talked about these games in the last three. Yeah, that win against Nashville was nice, but it's Nashville. You should beat Nashville. Tampa Bay, not splitting those two is rough. And then tonight, no one expected us to win tonight. You're missing Norris, you're missing Pinto, you're going 11-7 again, you're playing the Cup champions. It's not an easy game, especially in their barn. But you don't expect an embarrassing, absolutely destroyed kind of loss. Like the Ottawa Senators faced tonight, it was basically like how Ottawa destroyed Minnesota like a week ago. That's what happened to Ottawa tonight. They got outshot by double. Almost 50 shots on net for Florida. It was embarrassing. And again, I've been saying it a lot on Twitter, and I've looked into it, and I still believe it that, yes, the Ottawa Senators, that being Steve Staios, SENS GM, have to make a move in the next couple of weeks here. I know they have no cap space, literally just over $100,000 in cap space. If you put Nick Cousins on the LTIR, for example, it still doesn't clear up a lot of space. I know as well that with the call-ups and whatnot, especially if it's an emergency call-up or just a call-up in general, I know that affects, I forget what it's called, but the cap space for the trade deadline. I forget what it's called exactly. So there are a few cap reasons as to why Steve Staios hasn't made a move in that regard. I don't agree with it personally. At the end of the day, Reinhart and Osipchuk have been fine, but I think you needed a spark there, especially in that bottom six right now. When you have key guys in your top six, middle six that are out, especially down the middle, this is the perfect opportunity to give Stephen Halliday his first NHL opportunity. He's top 5 for rookie scoring in the AHL right now. He absolutely deserves a chance. Or Angus Crookshank, one of the best scorers on Belleville, who's shown some good, glimpses in his time in the National Hockey League. Just get some life into this lineup. Just try something, right? It doesn't hurt. So I don't understand that. However, before the next SENS game on February 22nd against the Habs, I do frankly expect the Ottawa Senators to make a move. Ryan Donato, and I'll make a video about this in the next week. But Ryan Donato is somebody that I would really, really like. But yeah, so Ottawa remains without Shane Pinto for this game. They went with 11-7 again, and I don't understand why Nicholas Manapolo is his seventh defenseman. That's also another reason why they can't make a move, because what are they going to do? You're not going to send down Hamonic. He has a no move. And they're not going to, drop Manapolo. He's played so well, he doesn't deserve that. And more so, I don't think you would clear waivers. So you would lose that key defensive depth for both, teams in your organization. Steve Staios is in a really tough spot right now. And, I'm critical of the fact he hasn't made a move, but I also understand the situation he's in. It's not an easy one for sure, but he's got a couple weeks here to figure it out. And as we've seen again, Matthew Highmore's been fine. I think he's actually looked pretty good in this last little stretch when he's been called upon. But on line one with Tim Stützle. I mean, no offense to Highmore, but this is just further proof that Stützle needs a true scoring winger next to him. And not just for the next, 25 games or so. He needs that for the next few years. That's why I was excited about DeBrincat. And I said it when we got DeBrincat that Giroux's not getting any younger. We need a scorer, and we still need a scorer. So, Donato is a guy that I'd bring in, and I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to ruin the video, but there are a few guys on the market that have short-term and long-term appeal for the Ottawa Senators. Now, I'll just break down the game here for the next few minutes. I know some of you guys watch these videos specifically because you can't watch the games. And, well, I would like to spend the next 15 minutes kind of dissecting what went wrong the last 3 games and why I think you should still be optimistic. I am going to do that, but I'm not going to spend 15 minutes doing it because, again, there are some of you that want to hear about what happened in this game and kind of the context around the team going into this one. So let's get into the recap. Linus Ullmark started tonight for Ottawa, and Sergei Bobrovsky started for the Florida Panthers. Now, Bobrovsky is 15-7-1 with a .921 save percentage and a 2.13 goals against average in 23 career games against the SENS, and the show tonight, Bob was unbelievable. Well, Linus Ullmark has a 13-3-1 record with a .931 save percentage and a 2.38 goals against average in 17 games against the Panthers. Keep in mind, essentially all of those were with the Boston Bruins, so doesn't really matter in our context here, but he does have good stats against this team. Now, as I already mentioned, no matter what happens tonight, especially thanks to the scoreboard watch, Boston lost in the last minute to Vegas. Detroit lost to Tampa Bay in regulation, which is key. Did not want that one to go to, a 3-point game. So with Detroit losing in regulation, Ottawa is guaranteed to have the first wildcard spot. I think with the tiebreak, Ottawa would have been in a playoff spot anyways, but it's nice to see them on top of that wildcard race, as they deserve. Look, yeah, we lost the last 3 games. We won a bunch before that. We deserve that spot. We got it. So that's good to see. And Tim Stützle going into this game on a 7-game point streak, while Michael Amadio has goals in his last 3 of 4 back-to-back games with a goal for him as well. And he had a pretty good chance tonight to score. We'll talk about it here in the first period of play. But again, he's looked much better as of late, no doubt about it. Definitely more engaged offensively. Oh, a couple last things. The Senators lead the National Hockey League with 21 points from defensemen since January 25th. After a rough start for the Ottawa Senator Blue Liners offensively, that's great to see. And the Locked On guys put out this stat. I thought it was rather interesting. The Sens are 8-0 on the weekend since December 28th. So you would think, hey, this is the game the Ottawa Senators need to kind of get out of their funk and finish off this, stretch of games before this break. And it looks like that's going to be the case early on. Yes, look, 5 minutes in, it's the Tkachuk Bowl. We all know that. Matthew versus Brady. What I really found interesting, by the way, look at your screen right now. Crazy stat. Brady Tkachuk has played nearly 200 more games than, Matthew Tkachuk, and has an absurd more amount of shots than, his brother Matthew in less than 200 games. Than him. That is absolutely insane. And we saw it again tonight. We'll talk about it in the game notes. Brady Tkachuk is an absolute dog. And when he shows up, this team usually shows up too. So that's why this result is shocking. But that first period, pretty good for Ottawa. I can't lie with you. 6 minutes into the first period of play, the Florida Panthers did lead in shots 9-1, but Ottawa would break through with the first goal. And of course, as El Capitano, Brady Tkachuk, off a beautiful play by Claude Giroux, a beautiful keep in here to Tim Stützle, who fires it right to Batherson, right over to Tkachuk, puts it in 5-hole as Ottawa strikes first to make it 1-0 Senators off the power play goal. Ottawa is 11-4-3 when Brady scores this year, and 22-4-0 when scoring first. However, remember, they scored against Tampa first, and they lost that. So let's see how they do here. And by the way, with that goal, Tim Stützle, as I mentioned before this video, on a 7-game point streak, continues that tonight, makes it 8 games in a row. Timmy is on fire, and it's more reason as to why we need to give him some help on that wing. Now, moments after that, Michael Amadio. It's a me, Amadio. Well, actually, it's me, Bob. What a save there from Bobrovsky on a great look out front moments later. Just absolutely robbed. Kind of similar to the Giroux chance against Tampa Bay the other day where it was a wide open net. Sure, great stop. And I mean, great stop by Bob here. Just like Vasilevsky on Giroux the other day. But at the same time, wide open net. You got to bury those, especially when you're playing a team like Florida. You got to bury those chances, especially when they're pouncing us with shots early on. They are firing on all cylinders, and after 20 minutes of play, they would lead in shots, 16-9. So Ottawa would push back, which was great. Hits were 11-10 Florida, so a little bit of a physical game there as well. We saw it throughout the game, pretty chippy to be honest with you. So Ottawa did push back. They had a couple penalties against, so Florida had a couple power plays in that first period of play. Did a pretty good job of killing those off. And just like the Amadio chance, by the way, Jake Matheson had a 2-on-1 in that first period of play, literally a few minutes after Amadio was robbed. And I don't know what Matheson is doing here, frankly. He has a 2-on-1. He toe drags it into the middle, right into the body of the defender. Doesn't even get a shot off. So, with that and Amadio, that's the difference between 3-0 and just being up 1-0. And of course, that's going to cost us as we go to the second period of play. It's the Florida Panthers. They won the Cup for a reason. They are top in the Atlantic Division for a reason, and we see that here in the second period of play, 7 minutes in. Ullmark makes a huge stop, but moments later, it's the worst brother. Probably going to get some heat for saying that. I know Florida fans certainly disagree, as you heard in the crowd today. But Brady Tkachuk scores on the power play to tie things up at 1 apiece. Along the boards, picks up the puck, as it was floated in the air, and the diamond kind of lets him just walk in. Sure, he fakes a pass, so Sanderson goes the other way, leaving a bit more of a lane open for him, but kind of walk in there on Ullmark. But that's just the formation of the diamond. I can't specifically blame Jake Sanderson for that goal. I mean, again, terrible positioning, but that's just kind of the style and the setup of the penalty kill. What the hell is he supposed to do there? The design of the penalty kill is to, block that bumper pass that, the Ottawa Senators love to execute on, for example, on their power plays. So they're pretty familiar with that, power play goal going in. But also, what's better? A bumper shot where the goaltender can make a stop on a quick athletic save, which, again, Ullmark is more than capable of, or letting in a perennial top scorer like Brady Tkachuk pick his corner. I would rather have them take a shot from the bumper and hope it gets blocked or deflected or stopped, because I think the odds there are better than letting a shooter pick his corner. But that's what happens here as the Florida Panthers strike and tie it at 1-1. And this second period was all Florida. Yikes. 12 minutes into the second period of play, 5 minutes later, Tkachuk, again, that being Matthew, floats it in for the blue line, and Barkov tips it home. They make it 2-1 Florida on a delayed penalty. That was a rough delayed penalty. Really, Greg and Reinhart sparred with one another. Some people said, they should have been a penalty there on Florida. Well, I mean, really, Greg did, spear him in the face. So I don't know if there should have been a call there on either. I think it was rough for both. But they get a goal in the delayed penalty. And, with about 5 minutes left in the second period of play, Ottawa is getting outshot 29-14. And then a few minutes later, after that delayed penalty goal, another penalty against Ottawa. And this is why I'm not blaming the refs. Ottawa, and yes, this was a terrible call. I'm not going to lie, terrible. Really, Greg is pushed into Highmore, and then Highmore bumps into Bobrovsky, and Highmore's called for the goalie interference penalty. It's just not the case. He collided with Really Greg because a Panthers player shoved Greg his way and closed the lane that Highmore had. He couldn't get out of the way regardless. So, goalie interference specifically says without the intent to move out of the goaltender's way. Well, Highmore didn't even have that opportunity. So ridiculous penalty there. But again, Ottawa was just incredibly undisciplined today. I mean, they were just not disciplined whatsoever. And yes, the penalties, some of them are controversial, but 5 penalties against Florida, two or three, sure, not great. But five, and a couple, Stützle took one late. Tkachuk had one. I mean, the top guys are taking some really bad calls. So, again, in a very important game like tonight, just to finish off the stretch the right way before 2 weeks off, the guys said themselves, this is going to be a response type of game. Well, that's just immature. That's just showing a lack of maturity, which we've rarely seen, frankly, from this team this year. It's shocking that happened tonight. Regardless of frustrations and not, it was happening before we were really out of it. This was happening when we were still in the game. So, obviously, we killed 4 out of 5 of the Florida Panther power plays. So, it could have been worse. But again, that certainly helped Florida take all the momentum we built after, again, in the first period, couple power plays early on for Florida. We would push back, respond, get a goal. Then a bunch of these penalties again. Florida was able to just take back all the momentum because they were dominant on those power plays. And then with a few minutes left in the second period of play, that dominance continues. Forsling from distance walks in and beats Ullmark left side 3-1 Florida now. And you need to stop there from Ullmark. I don't care what anyone says. I think this is the one goal tonight that he really needed to stop. This is from distance. The team is on their heels. You're a couple minutes away from getting 3 minutes away exactly to get out of the period only down by a goal to give Ottawa a chance. And Ullmark was great this game. I'm not going to pin the loss on him at all. I mean, the amount of shots he faced is barbaric, to be honest with you. But at the same time, again, you're on your heels. You just gave up a goal. Bunch of penalties against. They're not playing well. No zone possession. Florida is literally hemming you into your own zone. You need to stop on a shot like that, which was one of the lower danger chances Florida had all night. And then a minute later, this one basically puts it away. 2 minutes left. Bennett rips a one-timer top shelf past Ullmark. No chance there for Ollie as the Panthers lead by 3 with a score of 4-1 going to the third period of play. I kind of was expecting Forsberg to enter the net for the third, not because Ullmark was terrible, but because he was getting peppered with shots and no reason to keep him in, but they did. And frankly, I'm happy to see that. It shows that he's healthy enough to play and kind of makes me feel a little bit better about his situation moving forward and his health. So we go to the third period of play. Ottawa, not looking good. The Panthers, when they lead going to the third, are 22-2-0. And that would be basically all she wrote going to the third period of play. Ottawa would just muster a few shots there in the third period of play. Until like the last few minutes where Ottawa would get a few shots. Ottawa literally emptied the net with 7 minutes left. So they did push there in the second half of the third period. But again, only 9 shots in that period and 27 in total. It's the Florida Panthers win this one by a final score of 5-1, outshooting us 48-27. 48-27. They outshot us by more than double. That is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. You had rest. You had a lot of expectations, and you said it yourself. You needed to bounce back and respond in a big way in this game, and that just did not happen. So I'm just going to be honest and call it what it is. This was an embarrassing loss because they just didn't play as well as they could. Sure, losing Norris and Pinto are crucial losses that will hurt any single team. But the undisciplined penalties, the lack of push, especially there halfway through the game when Florida just took over in that second period, no response to any of that. Just kind of letting it go was really sucky to see. We haven't seen that from Ottawa in some time, and that's just not the way you want to finish off the road trip here before the break. So that is unfortunate. But however, again, Ottawa is still in a playoff spot, barely, but they are in a playoff spot, first in the wild card race by a couple points. So again, we still control our own fate. Still a lot to be optimistic about. Still 25 or so games to go in the year. The last 9 out of 10 games on the year for Ottawa are at home. Top 5 easy schedule left in the National Hockey League for your Ottawa Senators. So there's a lot of reasons to not only have hope, but to be very optimistic. This team has full control of their own destiny. And as we've seen throughout the year, we should have faith that they're going to figure it out, bounce back, and get back on track. Now, a couple of notes from this game before I wrap up the video. Tkachuk tonight, as I mentioned, earlier in the video, he's an absolute dog, a workhorse, an unbelievable talent when it comes to putting shots on net. 11 shots on net in this game, 5 points in his last 5 as well for Tkachuk. After like a 10-game, goalless drought, he's really bounced back in a great way, which is good to see. But between him and Sanderson had 6 shots on net. The two combined for 17 shots on net. So Ottawa had 27 total, 17 of which came from Sanderson and Tkachuk alone. That's crazy. Chabot as well had a pretty good game, especially in that first period of play. I noticed him quite a bit. In this game, he played a hell of a lot. He played just under 26 minutes. He had 3 hits. Pretty physical game there for Chabot, and I think he was pretty noticeable in a positive way, especially, again, in a game like tonight where there's not many positives. And the last thing I'll say is, again, Linus Ullmark, .915 save percentage, 47 shots faced, 43 saves. Other than that third one from Forsling, he did his job. He made a lot of great stops, and frankly, this could have been even worse. So no doubt that Ullmark played well. Not his fault at all for the result tonight. And, hopefully everything goes all right there at the Four Nations for Sweden. Hopefully it doesn't beat Canada, of course. But, hopefully that kind of helps him get more into a flow, and he comes back and Ottawa gets on a roll here. Now, speaking of that, the next SENS game is in a couple of weeks. It's crazy. February 22nd against the Montreal Canadiens, 2 weeks away. I will be having videos and interviews in the next couple of weeks. I have a couple of interviews locked up right now, and I have some videos planned. I already mentioned that 4-trade preview one, for example. So stay on the lookout for that. Plenty of videos and content coming your way for the next couple of weeks here. But unfortunately, after this 2-week break, I'm not going to have a game recap for that game on the 22nd. It's my girlfriend's birthday, so obviously that's more important. So I'll be celebrating her birthday with her. But again, videos will be throughout the next couple of weeks, no doubt about it. We'll be dropping consistently, and of course, I will be routinely putting out post-game recaps for the remainder of the games, of course, other than that one game on that one day. Now, with that, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. As always, enjoy the next 2 weeks. Hopefully, Canada can win at the Four Nations tournament. I don't get the flack for it. Sure, I would have liked to see some other teams in it. Would have been cool, but we've been dreaming of best on best international play for a while, so just enjoy it. Just enjoy it, and I'm going to do just that. Now, with that, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Go Sens, go.